What's up, Coach? I'm Eddie Young, and we're back with the Middle School Football Academy. Remember, we're your home to help you get better as a coach. That way, you can be there for your players, no matter what level that you're at, but specifically for middle school. Right now, we're talking about how to ID different defensive fronts. Now, maybe you're an offensive coordinator and you're trying to figure out how the guys are lined up. Maybe you're on defense and you want to say, hey, this is how we need to be lined up according to whatever it is that they're playing. No matter where you are, let me help you figure out exactly how the defense is lined up. Okay. So the first thing that we got to figure out, of course, is what are we actually calling these techniques? All right. So the defensive line, they're not just lining up all kind of willy nilly. They have very specific techniques in how they're lined up. All right. So let me show you something real quick. Okay. So now what we're looking at are defensive line gaps and techniques. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is what I use. Okay. This is how I teach my players. A lot of other coaches do a lot of different things, but this is what I use. All right. So first, we'll start at the top with the gaps from inside out: A, B, C, D. A is in between the center and the guard. B is in between the guard and tackle. C is in between the tackle and the tight end. D is anything outside the tight end. And as you see, it repeats itself on the other side. All right. Now we're actually going to jump down here into the middle. I use this teaching tool simply because I believe it's easier for my players to understand. So first of all, any time a defensive lineman is lined up head up, it's going to be an even number. Okay, so 0 is head up the center, 2 is head up the guard, 4 is head up the tackle, 6 is head up the tight end. And once again, it repeats on the opposite side as well. So anytime a defensive lineman is lined up on the inside of the offensive lineman, that would be a I. We're going to add an I to it. All right. So that means 2I is the inside shade of the guard, 4I is inside shade of the tackle, 6I is the inside shade of the tight end. And just like everything else, it repeats itself on the opposite side. Lastly, now we're going to the outside shade. So anything that's on the outside shade of the offensive lineman, that's going to be an odd number. Okay, so odd is outside. Outside is odd. Inside has an I attached to it. So outside shade is a 1. Outside shade of the center is a 1. Outside shade of the guard is a 3. Outside shade of the tackle is a 5. Outside shade of the tight end is a 7. You occasionally will hear about a wide 9 technique. That will be over in this direction, way out wide. Okay, typically we're really trying to pinch everything in and not let them get to the outside. Now, let's talk about these different fronts and how everything kind of goes down. Remember, you can use this simply to teach your players. That way they can communicate back with you, or if you need them to line up in a very specific way. Hey, say if you're in a 3-man front, I need a 4I, a 0, and a 4I. Those young men should know where to line up. All right. Now let's show you these different fronts of what we have available. So first, we're going to talk about the over front. Okay. Now, looking at the over front, most of this is going to be determined by where the 3 technique is. All right. So the 3 technique is over on the same side as the tight end. All right. So he's over on the same side. That's going to be an over front. So if he's in a 3, that means the other defensive tackle is going to be in a 1 technique. Here you can have your end in a 5. You can have this guy here as well. You can have him in a 7. You can have him in a 5. Just know that's going to impact how your linebackers are going to be lined up as well. Okay. Now that's your over front. Now let's look at your under front. Okay. So your under front is going to be very similar, except that it's kind of flipped. So this means that now your 3 technique is on the opposite side of the tight end. So here's your 3 technique. Here's your tight end on the opposite side, which means that your 1 technique is now on the same side as your tight end. So that's the case. That means you're going to drop down. You're actually going to still keep him in a 5. This defensive end is also in a 5. A lot of times what you'll see is, because if this linebacker was gone, let me back this up a little bit. If this linebacker was where he normally would be, normally this linebacker would be back this way. But of course, this leaves this end a little bit open, all right, on this side. Okay, so if you play contain, it's kind of hard for him to contain if he's pinched in, or if the tight end can come in and seal him off. So that's why a lot of times you walk this linebacker down in this under front. Nothing to keep in mind here, now that I'm mentioning this, is that the side where the tight end is, that's your closed front, the closed side of your defensive front, which would make the side where the tight end is not the open side. So next question is, if this is closed and this is open, what happens if he now becomes a tight end and now we have two tight ends? What that just means, as a defensive coordinator, you have to make the determination as to which side is going to be open or closed. But for all intents and purposes, for what we're talking about right now, under front, you got this guy right here in the 1. He's in the 3. The 3 technique is on the opposite side of the tight end. That makes this an open front. I mean, an under front, which typically means you're going to walk one of your linebackers down. So we talked about over, talked about under. Now, another one you can think about is boundary or field. All right. Now, this one is kind of cool to me. Picked this up not too long ago. All right, so we all know that typically football is not played in the middle of the field, right? So what happens is you're typically going to end up playing ball where? On one of these hashes, all right? So if you put your 3 technique to the boundary, which is the short side of the field, this wide side would be the field, the short side would be the boundary. So you could easily just say, hey, I want a boundary front. That means you want your 3 technique to the boundary. Got it? Once again, 3 technique is to the boundary. That means your 1 technique is to the field. All right. So now, if that's your boundary front, your field front is going to be the opposite. That means you're going to put your 3 technique to the wide side of the field, to the field side, which means that your 1 technique is where? To the boundary side. All right. Now, here's another one. Bear. This one is really something that we've heard a lot about. All right, so the bear front, made really famous by the Chicago Bears in the late 80s. You got your nose tackle, head up the center, or a 0 technique. You got 2 twos. Both your defensive tackles are head up your guards. Okay. Now you got a 5 technique by this defensive end, another 5 technique by this defensive end. They're both on the outside shade of the tackle. You want to walk down someone else. I call him a DB right here. Could be a linebacker, whatever suits your fancy. He's going to walk down here, and then you have linebacker. All of these people in this box pretty much dictate that you're playing either cover 3 or cover 1 in your secondary. All right, but just for the front, you got a 5, 2, 0, 2, 5, 7, or a 9 out here. The last one we'll talk about is the mug. All right. You got a lot of pressure up here, a lot of people up front right here. Okay. Once again, the number of people that you have in the box pretty much dictates that you're playing either cover 3 or cover 1 on the back end. But what you got here is a 5, got a 3, and you got your linebackers both in the A gaps. You got another 3, another 5. All right. Now, something that you can think about doing is, you would think, why would we ever want to play this? Why would we ever want to do this? Because it kind of sets you up to do not much. One thing you could do very easily, just for, like I said, just for kicks and giggles here, is if you wanted to play cover 3 out of this, deep third, correct? He comes to the flats, hook curl. Got to get him out a little bit further, but hook curl. All right. So we play this, snapping the ball, and they're bailing out. You can actually play a lot of pretty cool games as far as blitzing with these folks, because you can send one, you can send this one, you can send both. You can do a lot of things with this one, but it's something that'll give you just a few more options, so to speak. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that gives you a little something that you can study. If you haven't played ball this year yet, maybe something you can implement, or if you're getting ready for next year, something that you can study and use to prepare. All right. Now, if you haven't already, please, my brother, please, sister, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm always trying to get as many people to watch this, to watch the community, to kind of grow the community. Like, comment. Of course, we talk about subscribing. I'm Eddie Young. Thank you for watching the Middle School Football Academy. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Merry Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. We'll see y'all next week.